Most people make one massive estate planning mistake that costs families around the country tens of thousands, if not hundreds or millions of dollars to fix. The good news is that it's completely avoidable with proper planning, and I'm going to share in this video exactly what needs to be done to avoid this common mistake, and also the exact steps you need to take to create an estate plan that's going to be completely avoiding this massive mistake and a few others as well. Through proper planning, you will realize why so many people will fall into this trap, and you will also realize the exact steps that you need to take to make sure that you don't also fall victim to the same common mistake. And here's the thing, it's not just for the ultra wealthy. A lot of people assume that estate planning or trust planning overall is just for the ultra wealthy. But the reality is that if you own a house, a bank account, an IRA, if you have life insurance, then you absolutely need estate planning to make sure that you're saving your family a lot of time and a lot of money. So in this video, we're going to dive deep into why so many people fall into this mistake and exactly when they do it, even when they don't think that they're making a mistake and they feel like they have everything that they need. We're also going to share real life horror stories about people who didn't plan properly, and we're going to share the top strategies that we have helped our clients utilize in order to avoid those mistakes. We will also share the legal tools that you need to have in your pocket to make sure that you're avoiding the costly mistakes for you and your loved ones. Plus, we've got a tip at the end that may save your family a lot of money on estate taxes, and it's not going to cost you a lot, and it will be a great tool to add to your estate planning toolkit. So if you're thinking, I'm not rich, I don't need this, I don't need a trust, then think again. Because not having a plan, if you have any assets at all, think about this. In the state of Colorado, everything over $80,000 is considered to be subject to probate. So everybody that owns over $80,000 is suddenly ultra wealthy? Of course not. It just means that they need to engage in proper planning to avoid the common pitfalls that a lot of people fall into who do not plan. So number one mistake that people make is probate. So if they only have a will that says, I leave everything to whatever, and I want to make sure that if, my spouse and I die, it all goes to my kids. What a lot of people don't realize, and what a lot of attorneys don't tell them, is that a will alone is simply not enough, because all of your estate will end up in the court process that's called probate. Probate is a court that deals with matters of inheritance. There is no automatic inheritance when you only have a will. Probate is public. So number two pitfall is that you're getting public exposure for everything that you're leaving to your loved ones. So anybody can go online and look up your will and see exactly what you're leaving to your kids, and everything that gets filed into that probate case is public record. So you're putting your family into the public court process by leaving them with only a will. And another thing that a will does not do is it does not give your loved ones any asset protection. So if you leave everything to your kids outright with no restrictions, everything that you left them will be subject to your kids' divorces, creditors, lawsuits, or even your surviving spouse. If you leave everything to them and then they get remarried, they may end up losing everything to their new spouse if they get divorced, or they simply will inadvertently disinherit your own kids. Another thing that a will does not do is that it does not list out all of the assets that you own. Think about it. A will just says, I leave everything to my kids. What does everything mean these days? Do your kids, especially if you have little kids like I do they know all of the bank accounts that you have, your IRAs, your life insurance statements, your crypto, where the deeds to your real estate are located? Where is all of the business paperwork for the business that you have? No, of course not. Even for adults, it's hard to navigate that. Even for your spouse, if they don't have access to your bank accounts, a lot of spouses live together and keep everything separate. Even for your spouse, it's going to be hard to navigate this. So how would anybody else know what everything means and where to locate it all? So you're basically putting the burden on whoever's going to be administering the will to figure out what that everything is, find it, and then administer it, and then split it up into shares for your loved ones. So just simply saying everything is not enough, because nobody knows what that everything is. Another common pitfall of a will is that it does not address taxes at all. So a will does not address capital gains taxes. It does not address your inheritance taxes. So I actually had a client who is way over the estate tax exemption, and their attorney that they worked with only gave them a will, which basically means that if they didn't do any advanced trust planning, everything that's over that estate tax exemption will be subject to a 40% estate tax tax upon death that the administrator of the estate will be having to pay after administering the probate. Sounds like a nightmare, right? So a review of all of your assets needs to be a part of your estate planning conversation, because if you just come to an attorney and you say, I want a will, and that's what they do for you, they're not giving you a good service, because it's the same thing as if you came to a dentist and you said, I need a filling, and they wouldn't even do an x-ray and just give you a filling. It is malpractice. So what you need to understand is that reviewing all of the assets need to be part of your estate planning conversation. So now that I have convinced you that a will alone is the most common mistake that people make when they set up their estate plan, especially when they have a lot of assets or minor kids, now let's talk about another tip that you can utilize, and we call for tax avoidance, especially estate tax avoidance, and it's called an irrevocable life insurance trust, or an ILIT. How does an irrevocable life insurance trust work, and how can you use it for the benefit of your estate planning? So if you have a high value life insurance policy that you technically don't really own because it's not going to pay out until you die, but the value of it gets added to your overall value of the estate for the purposes of calculating the estate tax that's due. So if you have a $3 million life insurance policy, you don't have that $3 million in the bank, but if something happens to you, that $3 million will be added to the value of your estate, and if it puts it over the estate tax exemption, then there will be a 40% tax on everything that's over. So a very smart tool is to put your life insurance policy into an irrevocable life insurance trust, and that will basically make sure that the proceeds and everything in the life insurance is completely protected from any of the beneficiaries, creditors, divorces, and things like that. And the trust will be receiving the proceeds of the life insurance benefit outside of the taxable estate. So none of the money will be used to pay down the estate tax because it's an irrevocable trust and you're gifting it outside of your estate before you die. Another great benefit is that if you don't have a lot of liquid assets in your estate, like if you want to preserve the real estate for the kids, life insurance is a great tool to pay off any remaining obligations on the assets that are not liquid and to preserve them and not have to liquidate them because there's not enough cash or liquid assets in the estate. So that was your tool to put into your estate planning toolbox, and I hope you found this video useful, and I hope you learned a lot about why a will alone is almost always not enough, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.